Hello, I'm Veronica Combs, and this is the Quantum Spin by HKA Marketing Communications. I have a great guest with me. Nardo Manaloto has Quantum Venture to help startups get into the healthcare space. This year at Q2B, Nardo is giving away $100,000. His Qubit Ventures is hosting a quantum startup pitch competition. Finalists will pitch their company's quantum solutions to investors during a live session. That will be a really cool part of the show this year. Please join me in welcoming Nardo Manaloto to the Quantum Spin.
Thanks, Veronica. Glad to be here and happy to hopefully get to share my insights in both the quantum and healthcare space, and even the startup space too.
Three challenging dimensions of business: healthcare, quantum, and startups. Managing partner of Qubit Ventures. Also work with Techstars, worked with Kaiser Permanente. You're the CEO of Catalaize, which helps companies connect the dots between all these technologies. So you have a really fascinating background. What led you to found Qubits Ventures?
When I was first thinking about creating this fund, through my work in Catalaize and working with investors, technology companies, and corporations, I've done quite a bit of work in that space and trying to promote the success of each of these stakeholders to make something happen in when it comes to solutions and technology that can hopefully change the healthcare world. And a big part of that strategy was to put a fund together. So, but since I'm a computer scientist, I did a lot of work in AI, and about 4 or 5 years ago, I started learning about quantum machine learning. And that's when I discovered and said, oh, wow, quantum machine learning, I think that's the next generation of things that can help healthcare because we have so many data to process. We have so many deficits when it comes to legacy systems. We have so many deficits in terms of the amount of resources that we have. So I said, okay, this is the area that I'm going to go into. When I first thought about the fund, my initial thesis was quantum in healthcare. I wanted to build a fund specific for quantum in healthcare. And as I look into the deal flow of the number of tech companies in that space, I only found 7 or 8. So I said, I don't think I can create a specific fund, that is targeting that industry. But if I create a sector agnostic fund that looks into quantum technologies across the board, then all of that could be cross-pollinated into healthcare, and hopefully that helps healthcare.
So tell us about a couple of your portfolio companies. How are they using quantum to help healthcare?
One company is a company called QC82, and what they are a room temperature photonic chip for scalable universal quantum computing. So this kind of a technology, building a quantum chip and quantum computer is very, very hard.
Yes.
This startup has 5 founders, and 4 of them are professors out of University of Virginia. Their first product will be more of a dual photon detector. Second is an integrated photonic chip. And the third would, of course, be photonics quantum computer. So the hope here is to create a room temperature quantum computer that you could actually use in healthcare scenarios to start addressing healthcare data processing, personalization of care, and any of the high-level compute intensive AI workloads that in healthcare. The other one is a new investment of mine. It's a Caltech spinoff that is founded by a professor. This company called Pink. It's really an innovative proprietary nonlinear photonic device that basically creates a universal laser that you could that's miniaturized that you could use in medical devices. You could use in consumer devices and many other scenarios. So that one is quite exciting for me.
I know that one stumbling block sometimes for entrepreneurs with that deep expertise is sort of talking about their work in a way that non-experts can understand, and you think a lot about elevator pitches when you're talking about startups, and I wonder, do you provide a lot of coaching on how to communicate about their work and how to not immediately get into the super complex technical topics and stay sort of at the promise of the technology or the use cases?
One of the things that I always like to say with startups is you fall in love with the problem. And basically, why you exist is to solve that problem, right? In a really good way. And a lot of startups, the first thing that they do is like, because they come from a scientific and technical background and they love building things and they love the shiny widget and things like that, they go into solutioning right away without really knowing what the problem really looks like, right? So I coach a lot of them from that standpoint. And then the other part that I also like talking to them about, there's a reason why you have two ears. It's basically to listen, right? To listen more than to talk more. So the listening aspect of somebody who listens to their customers, somebody that listens to experiences of people and trying to really understand all of the different angles of what that problem can look like for many different stakeholders, it is the kind of person that I'd like to have, because from a technology and science standpoint, they know what to do.
I think sometimes PowerPoints fall into that same sort of communication trap of, please don't fill a slide with text and read it to me. Focus on, the problem you're solving or the people you could help or the gap in a particular service. Do you have any thoughts of any memories of bad PowerPoints or any advice on how to avoid that fate of death by PowerPoint?
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about if you take a look at the backgrounds of scientists and researchers, they're great background. They're so good with writing research papers, and they have a to explain the science and things like that. And sometimes that gets translated into the PowerPoint, and it becomes a technical. It's a PowerPoint version of their technical paper, right? So when you create a startup, you have to really be cognizant about who the audience is. And the second piece to it is you have to really become good at the emotional connection that you can make when you're telling a story with this PowerPoint. Because at the end of the day, the person that knows the problem and that can create an emotional connection towards that problem and how they're solving it and how they're changing the world and making it better is the one that's going to succeed, right? The other thing that I'd like to see is, here are the impact from a experience perspective of how I'm solving the problems. Here's the impact from a market standpoint. Here's the impact from a business standpoint. So the impact component is important, and people need to actually show that.
That impact part is so important. I used to when I wrote about healthcare full time, I would always ask an entrepreneur working on a particular topic, have you ever talked to a patient with that particular condition? Or do you know what nurses are trying to get from this particular visit? You really have to understand that impact to be able to implement something or build, like you said, build a solution that someone needs, not just the one that you think is cool. So last year, you and I were on a panel together at Q2B, and one of our fellow panelists was Dr. Charles Bruce, and he is the Chief Innovation Officer at Mayo Clinic's Florida campus. And I don't think I'd ever seen a doctor so excited about quantum technology, and he just really saw the promise, and he knew all the data problems. And like you said, he was in there dealing with the systems and the limitations and wanting to do something with this data. And I thought, wow, what a great champion. You really have to find those internal people who see both sides of it, right? They know the healthcare side, but then they see the promise of the technology, and they're willing to work and get things done. So I'm curious, how do you spot someone like that, or do you cultivate those internal champions? How do you find more Dr. Bruce's in healthcare?
You need people that will basically brave the whole change management aspect of innovation and advocacy for technologies and things like that, right? The other part of it is when it comes to change, it's not just about, let's take a look at the new thing that I could push inside of an enterprise. Let me push AI, let me push quantum in there. I think the biggest part of change that we normally don't see are the change where we're actually removing the old legacy systems that can make room for the new systems. I identify people that are actually interested in removing those legacy systems as well. So that's one portion where there are people that naturally gravitate towards change and advocacy and innovation.
Quantum computing and its future ability to deal with massive amounts of data, that makes personalized health seem more accessible to me, or more possible, not just limited to a few people, but could help everyone regardless of your economic situation. I wonder what other early use cases you see in healthcare for quantum computing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot, right? So personalized and precision medicine, they kind of go hand in hand. The thing with personalization, sometimes we get stuck with, oh gosh, it's going to personalize anything and everything for me. That's not really the goal. So to me, the goal of personalization is, at what point do I need to have the right thing done to me at the right specific moment, right? And personalized to what, based on certain conditions that I have. It's not like, oh, let me lay out an entire path of things for you to do, so you could so that pretty much gives you an entire care plan for your life. That's although it's a great goal, it's not really realistic, right? Some of the excitement I have in the healthcare space, especially in the quantum, is the area of quantum sensors. So quantum sensing is a closer technology that can get deployed out there. We already have examples in companies and startup companies doing EEG using quantum magnetometers, where they are looking at brain waves and brain signals and electronic signals and neuron sparks going across the brain, and looking at where bottlenecks are for the purpose of neural disease diagnostics. So, and the level of precision, the level of accuracy is much better than the current sensor. So I am very interested in that. And the other angle that I also wanted to share is, when we think of healthcare, we always think of healthcare as like, oh, it's all about the clinical aspect of healthcare. That is absolutely not true, right? Healthcare is a business too. So we also have to take a look at the operation side of things. We have to take a look at the financial aspect of healthcare. A few of the more favorite things I'd like to see happen in healthcare are uh, a supply chain and logistics could be improved. Those doing things in the lab and pharma and delivery space. There's a lot of stuff going on there. We could never get nurse scheduling right in a good way, right? So we see quantum machine learning from an optimization standpoint also apply to nurse scheduling. So there are things that can help healthcare from a operations perspective that also can impact clinical care. The last thing is, we have a lot of resources, human resources that are just overworked in this space. So if we could use the concept of what I call intelligent avatars that works in both a quantum and AI perspective to help extend that level of care to people, then I think I am definitely for the use of that.
And I think I read recently that sometimes with certain sensitive health questions, people would rather talk to a bot than a human, right? Maybe there's less, uncomfortableness or nervousness or shame. And so that, calling up someone to ask about that weird rash on your arm might 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 be even better powered by a quantum machine learning, as you mentioned. And I saw recently that what the average annual cost for Medicare patients went down a little bit, right? Or the growth hasn't been as fast. And a couple analysts were like, we don't know why. So as you mentioned, maybe quantum computing can help us figure out some of the cost dynamics in healthcare, which are boring, but obviously very important and sometimes hard to understand.
Yeah, I think I have hopes there too, right? Just because cost and pricing optimization, it's a very, very hard thing to do. So hopefully, this technology, quantum and AI combination, would help us create better solutions.
So I mentioned that you're a managing partner at Qubit Ventures. You also work with an accelerator. You're an advisor to Techstars. You're the CEO of Catalaize, which is a consulting company. And amid all that work, you still have found time to write a really interesting series of posts on LinkedIn about quantum innovation. I was really fascinated by the scope of topics. You talked about quantum dots and about, I think, some specific healthcare applications. So I'm curious, how do you pick those innovations that you're sharing with the world, getting the word out about quantum computing, which we need?
So the intent of my LinkedIn post was really, first of all, was to kind of just say, hey, I want to prove to the world that the innovation and the discoveries and inventions happening in quantum is in a rapid pace. And the only way I could try and do that is say, if I could find a great group of people that have done really amazing work and they published it, uh, I wanted to kind of shout out about it and see if I could create a post a day just to show that there's a discovery happening every single day.
Definitely, I would recommend following Nardo Manaloto on LinkedIn for all of your quantum innovations. It's very, very digestible and it'll pull you right into the world of quantum if you're not here already. So thank you again, Nardo, for all your time.
You're welcome, Veronica. Totally had a good time here.
That's it for our conversation today. Thanks for joining us.